Thanks for joining me in part 3. We're looking at the life of Joseph and some lessons that he had to learn in his spiritual growth and development as a leader, and really that we all have to go through. He learned how to become a powerfully dependent person. He learned how to embrace the process. And it is so difficult when things are going slow or things are going difficult. When you are in a tragedy, don't change your theology. When you're in a difficult time, don't rearrange how you view God and yourself and others. That's not the time to come to conclusions. And many times when you face an issue and it comes back, people say, I feel like, I've heard people say this, God loves you so much, he'll never let you fail a test. He'll just let you take it again. And you feel like, but I already thought I passed that test. Why am I going through this issue again? Well, God will develop you on a deeper level. So I want to encourage you. You're not going in circles. You're actually going in cycles. You're going further up each time you pass that test, and God is preparing you for what he ultimately created you for. And so this issue of we looked at in the last session on boundaried events, these process events in the life of Joseph. And the great thing is that every process event you go through, there is a start and a finish. Everything in our life happens in seasons. It can't last forever. So if you're going through a difficult time, it can't last forever. It's a boundaried event. And the last thing I want to say about the life of Joseph, when you are in this development process and you feel like you're waiting on God and you get restless and you want to try to help him and you want to try to launch out and do things on your own, I've heard it said that the only thing harder than waiting on God is wishing that you had. And so when he embraced the process, the last thing Joseph needed to do was he needed to protect his face in the future. He had to protect that future self. He had to protect the image that God had created, the prophetic vision, the destiny, the dream, the desire. You've got to protect that mental portrait of who God has called you to be, even when you don't feel like that or look like that in your current state. It's a lesson that we all have to learn. Sometimes we don't even know who we are. God shows up and says something to you. Judges chapter 6, he says to Gideon, "You mighty warrior," while he's fearfully hiding out from the enemy. We don't even know who we are. T.D. Jakes once said, "I didn't know that I was T.D. Jakes." It's in the development process. God sees things in your life and will say things over you and give you vision for the future related to your redemptive potential, things that you haven't even seen or realized yet. And in those moments, you have to protect your face in the future. Winston Churchill was 16 years old, and God gave him a prophetic sense, a future sense of his life. And he was courageous enough, kind of like Joseph at 17 years old with his dream. Winston Churchill told his schoolmates he began to actually prophesy over his own life. And he said, there will come a day, a dark day over the world, where the empire of England will be threatened, and it shall fall upon my shoulders to save the nation. You know how many of his buddies probably thought he was crazy? You know how mocked he probably was? You know how many people thought, sure, Winston, okay, you narcissist, right? But he had this sense, he had this face in the future, and it wasn't going to happen overnight because he had that picture when he was 16 years old. 50 years later, Winston Churchill is standing up, addressing Parliament, because Hitler is bombing London and barraging Europe and trying to take over the world. And at 66 years old, 50 years after he originally saw his face in the future, he said to Parliament, in a way that only Winston Churchill could, the cigar smoking, heavy drink, he said, all my life has been preparation for this one moment. How does that happen? He protected his face in the future. He embraced the process. He knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. He surely didn't think it was going to take 50 years of preparation. I guarantee you that. And so maybe you had some ideas and you launched out in your business and it didn't go as quick as you thought. Or maybe you leaned into God and wanted to grow spiritually and you felt discouragement. Friend, I want to encourage you, embrace the process. And while you're doing that, protect your face in the future. Because God will drop a picture, He will drop a vision in your heart that He fully intends to come to pass. And His grace will sustain you in the journey of your spiritual and your character development. But you have to know that He's in this process with you. So what I want to do is I want to draw for you a little diagram that I was taught from Kevin Meyer. In fact, he has a book called Home Run. And I love baseball, and so I'm going to draw this as a baseball diagram to show you the key elements of Joseph's life. We're going to pull it all together now because these raw elements are in your life. They're in my life. It's how God develops His leaders, His kids. The first thing you have to know in baseball is that the batter's box is very key. In fact, you can't do anything until you step up to the plate. You can't even think about first base. And what happens in this first initial place is there is a winning of dependency, right? We talked about Joseph had to become dependent on God and not his gifts. And we have to win in the area of humility and dependency and reliance on God. And then once that happens, now we can get over to first base. Well, first base represents winning within. I would call winning dependency some clarity on your calling, but I would call winning within your character. Remember? Potiphar's wife, she got his coat, but she couldn't get his character. The amazing thing about your character is no one can steal it. You can squander it, and you can steward it poorly, but no one can steal it. You have to lay it down. So he had to learn to win dependency. He had to learn to win within. The next step, once you're on first base, now you want to get into scoring position. You want to get into second base. Second base, you have got to learn, once you've won dependency and got clarity in your calling, once you begin to win within, you have to learn how to win with others. And this is chemistry. Every leader has to go through this process. Doesn't matter if you're John Maxwell, Josh Finley, Winston Churchill, you have got to go through this process, just like Joseph did. He had to learn to win with others. He was kind of cocky, he flaunted his favor at a young age, but he learned to serve in Potiphar's house. He learned to manage. He learned to lead. In prison, he learned to serve his fellow inmates. He learned to lead and manage them with favor. He learned to win with others. Fortune 500 companies do studies all the time on the up-and-coming best managers and leaders, and this is what they have found out of a 20-year research project looking at Fortune 500 companies. The two characteristics of the leaders that rise to the top of their teams. Number one, they are flexible. They have dexterity in their competency. In times of change, they can pivot quickly and they can transition with new skills and new culture. But number two, and so vital, is they learn to play well in the sandbox with others. They develop emotional and relational intelligence. What is that? That's chemistry. They learn to win with others. Once you're on second base, the goal is to get to third base. And here is where we begin to win with results. Now we begin to work on skill set. Now we begin to go after speaking, leading, selling, influencing, delegating, communicating. What is this? This is not character or chemistry. This is competency. Every leader has to go through this process. Competency, right? When I look at the process to get around the bases, how do I get from calling to character? Truth. I have to embrace truth. I have to let God, like David said, God, I need truth in my inmost being. How do you get from first base to second base? From character to chemistry? Well, I have to learn how to trust. You can't develop relationships without trust. I have to learn how to function within a team. I have to learn how to grow relational capital and to trust and to be trustworthy. My word is my bond, right? All of those things. If I say it, I'm going to do it. I'm on time. All those things build trust in relationships. How do you move as a leader right now in your development process from chemistry to competency? You do that by training. You have to train. You have to try. You have to fail. You have to pick yourself up. You got to try. You have to fail. You have to learn, right? You train. This whole process, this diamond, and of course the whole goal of being on third base is to come home to score. And what happens is this base path, the whole point of it is target. I need to target my focus. Now I've accumulated some skills. Now I've accumulated some money, a platform. What is the target of my life? What is the big win? When you go around this process, the diamonds, every leader has to do it, and God graciously will walk you through this process. And honestly, if you divide up this diagram, I want to show you something. If you split this diagram in half, this whole side of the process is about development. This whole side of the process is about advancement. Many times the development is invisible and the advancement is what people see. You could word it this way. This side of the diagram is about your alignment, spiritual alignment, character alignment. I'm growing in my inward alignment. This is about your assignment, competency, skill set. Joseph had to go through this. David had to, it says that God chose David. Why? Because he had character of heart and skillful hands. So he had character and competency, and he had to learn to win with others. He had some scuffles with his brothers as well and needed to learn as a king. This process. Now, my boys grew up playing Little League, and when kids are little, they don't know how to run the bases. They don't know the fundamentals of the game. So what they do is they run out of the batter's box. They hit the ball. They're so excited. And sometimes they run to third base. Sometimes they go the wrong way. That's cute when it's Little League. It's not cute when it's your life. You run the bases in the proper way, and we call that's sonship. That's being secure in your identity in God. That's not having to prove anything before your time. That's letting the process work. While it's slow and you're embracing the process, you're winning dependency, you're protecting your face in the future. When you run the bases in the wrong order, that's called orphan thinking. I've got something to prove. If someone else gets it before me, I've got to get that piece of the pie because I don't know if there's going to be anything left. And what's so amazing, when you see these interviews with business tycoons, these billionaires that ran the bases backwards, they got out of the batter's box and they didn't really focus as much on character or winning with people. In fact, they cut corners and they stepped on people to get up that ladder. They jumped right to third base. They worked on their skill set. They worked on the hard skills. It was all about their development and their competency at all costs. Burn up relationships, neglect family, different things. But what's amazing is if you get some of these guys that ran the bases in the wrong order, they went first for competency and skipped the others. At the end of their lives, many of them will say, many times it's their third marriage or their grandkids don't want anything to do with them, or they're trying to repair some relationships because of choices that they've made. What they will say is pure gold for us if we'll catch it. They'll say, if I could do it all over again. They don't have the language or terminology to say I'd run the bases in the right order, but this is what they describe in those interviews. They say, at the end of the day, what really matters is your character and your integrity, and that your word is your bond, and that you do what you do what you say you're going to do. And you know what? The way you treat people really matters. What is it saying? First base, second base, character, chemistry. And you know what? Get really good at what you do. Get so good at what you do that people have to take notice, and they will hire you and they will pay you well for doing that thing. What they're saying is, if I could do it all over again, I would embrace the process and run the bases in the right way. Now, friend, we don't come out of the womb with this template. Many of us, we're at different stages in our lives, but now that you know better, you can do better. And I hope that showing you this process through the life of Joseph gives you some hope, gives you some clarity, gives you some direction that what's happening to me is not isolated. It's not weird. God hasn't picked me out to somehow punish me. He's not punishing me. Friend, he may actually be preparing you for something amazing. You just need to know there's life on the other side of this trial. as you protect your face in the future, you're going to be able to serve so many people. And I pray that as you lean into this spiritual growth journey that we're going to go on with this 31-day masterclass called The Power of, you're going to be empowered with spiritual growth. And I'm looking forward to doing that journey with you. God bless you until then.